A crackdown on so-called ghost guns.
We'll do everything in my power to crack down on gun trafficking of ghost guns.
President Joe Biden is set to change the definition of a firearm.
These guns are too easy to build, too hard to trace, and too dangerous to be on our streets.
Weekend wildfires spark across Colorado.
It's very scary, the thought of fire coming towards you.
We're getting an update on containment as some parts of the state see high fire danger again today. Plus, a Colorado woman is keeping her talent under wraps by spending her time volunteering.
We put a lot of love and creation into these baskets.
And no more workouts in Russell Wilson's backyard. The Broncos can start their first official workouts of the offseason. President Joe Biden is cracking down on ghost guns. He's expected to announce a new rule in less than 2 hours. It comes at a time when gun violence and crime is surging in cities to levels we haven't seen since the 90s. Thanks so much for joining us. For Denver 7 News at 11, I'm Jason Grenauer. Denver 7's Christian Lopez breaks down this new rule, which would change the definition of a firearm for the first time since 1968.
While this conversation is happening nationally, Denver leaders have already taken action. The city banned owning or manufacturing ghost guns just a few months ago. These guns are becoming more and more common at crime scenes, and they're hard to track. They're homemade guns that don't have serial numbers. President Biden's new rule is expected to address problems in both tracking and regulating them. Manufacturers who sell the parts to make the guns would have to be licensed and run background checks. They'd also have to add serial numbers to any guns they plan to sell. And the definition of a firearm would also change.
A gun is a firearm. It has to be sold by a dealer, but the pieces are not a firearm and don't have to be sold by the dealer. That's what we need to change.
This is making good on a promise made by President Biden during his State of the Union speech last month, where he said he'd do everything in his power to crack down on these types of firearms. Reporting in Denver, I'm Christian Lopez, Denver 7.
Aurora police are investigating 2 shootings that hurt 4 people. The most recent one happened earlier this morning at an apartment near Colfax and Xanadu. Police say a man and a woman were shot. Officers arrested a suspect a few hours later. Aurora PD are also looking for the person who shot 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl, during a street race. Officers were initially called to Alameda and Peoria overnight for reports of street racing and fireworks going off. They found the shooting victims when they arrived. Those 2 victims will survive. New at 11, we'll hear from former Aurora Police Chief Vanessa Wilson this afternoon. She will hold a news conference about her firing. Wilson was officially let go last week after City Manager Jim Twombly said he was concerned about her management and leadership in the department. Her attorneys say her firing is, quote, without cause. Wilson will address the media at 1 this afternoon. You can watch her remarks on our website and on the Denver 7 Plus app. We'll hear more about the impact fentanyl is having on Colorado in about an hour and a half. Law enforcement, business leaders, and the Common Sense Institute will discuss the effect it's having on the community. The Common Sense Institute says Colorado saw more than 800 fentanyl-related deaths just last year. That is a 260% jump from 2019. In 2020, there were 540 deaths, which was up more than 140% from the year before. Tomorrow, state lawmakers are expected to hear a bill designed to toughen penalties for fentanyl dealers. Meanwhile, firefighters are trying to put out 4 wildfires that sparked across Colorado yesterday. This map shows all those fires, 1 in El Paso County, 1 near Pueblo, 1 in Teller County, and 1 in Morgan County. Firefighters are back near Pueblo this morning working on the Pause fire. It's 75% contained and has burned less than 20 acres. Evacuations have been lifted for the fire in El Paso County. That fire is now fully contained after burning nearly 40 acres. We do know that a home and several outbuildings were damaged there.
Over the last few days, we have had high fire danger. We all know how dry it's been out here, and then the winds. Just any type of spark, you know, from a lawnmower to somebody throwing a cigarette out the window, and then the wind picks that up, and this is what you end up with.
Investigators say an unattended campfire started a wildfire near County Road 89 near Cripple Creek in Teller County. It was contained at 3 acres. And then that last fire closed US 34 near Wiggins in Morgan County for 2 hours on Sunday. Meanwhile, the rebuilding process in Boulder County from the Marshall fire takes another step forward. The county is holding an online workshop tonight focusing on building code requirements and energy efficient codes. At last check, the county wants to have work starting in the next 2 to 4 weeks. Tonight's meeting starts at 6. You can register on Boulder County's website. The eastern part of Ukraine is bracing for attacks. Russian troops are gathering in that region. This map shows where they're stationed. Ukraine's president says tens of thousands of troops are ready to defend their country. As Rena Roy reports, Ukrainian officials want more military help.
New satellite images show an 8-mile-long Russian military convoy headed toward Ukraine's second-largest city, Kharkiv, with Russian forces now zeroing in on the eastern part of the country.
Pulling out of Kyiv doesn't mean that the war is over. They just changed the strategy. They're in the east and the south of the country, extremely active.
Russia putting a new commander in charge of the war in Ukraine, General Alexander Dvornikov, who led Russian forces in Syria, a campaign where human rights investigators say Russian forces deliberately targeted civilian populations and destroyed cities. Ukrainian President Zelensky saying his troops are ready, that they can even use more missiles against us, even more aerial bombs, but we're preparing for all that action. We will respond. Though Ukrainian officials are calling for more military aid.
We cannot defend our country with our fists. We need weapons to defend our country.
A growing number of atrocities against civilians are being reported, including last week's attack on a train station in the eastern city of Kramatorsk, which killed 57 people, including 5 children.
These are mass atrocities. These are war crimes. These are shocking and brutal acts that are completely unacceptable. The bottom line is this: there must be accountability.
Russian air assaults continuing to hammer Odessa, Kharkiv, and Mariupol. These 4 friends escaping the besieged port city where they had been trapped for weeks. Living in this destroyed apartment without consistent food, water, or communications with the outside world. 32-year-old Artem saying he doesn't understand how they managed to survive.
Russia has agreed to open 9 humanitarian corridors today to help innocent civilians escape the country, though in previous weeks other corridors have come under attack by Russian forces. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Colorado Congressman Jason Crow told CNN today he wants to visit Ukraine and has already made some requests to do that.
I think it's time to start showing American support on the ground in Ukraine. So I'm going to continue to push to do that. The Ukrainians certainly would love to see Americans in and around Ukraine to have boots on the ground, so to speak, in a non-military way, but in a diplomatic way, in addition to the substantial military assistance that we've been providing.
Just last week, the U.S. authorized an additional $1 million in aid to provide anti-tank missiles to Ukraine's military. A heads up for anyone traveling to and from DIA this week. Construction starts on the east side of the terminal near the passenger pickup and drop-off areas. One lane will be closed from 6 to 3. The location of those closures will change every day, but at least one lane will be open on each level. And speaking of the airport and transportation, the CDC will give an update on the transportation mask mandate later this week. The mandate is in effect for planes, trains, and other public transportation. It's supposed to expire a week from today. To become the best at what you do takes relentless practice, and this week's Denver 7 Everyday Hero has done just that. Denver 7's Nicole Brady met a volunteer who keeps her favorite fundraiser all wrapped up.
Themed gift baskets are big at silent auctions.
It becomes our signature for the luncheon.
For Judy McNeil, they're also a passion.
We put a lot of love and creation into these baskets.
Judy had already been part of the Guild of the Children's Diabetes Foundation for a decade when she made a fateful decision.
I volunteered to start with the baskets about 16 years ago.
Since then, her baskets have become legendary, going for top dollar every year at the foundation's Spring Brass Ring fundraiser.
We have a $100 minimum. And some of these baskets will go for $300.
And it's all for a good cause.
The money that we raise on this fundraiser, it goes to benefit the Children's Diabetes Foundation. It promotes awareness and education for type 1 diabetes.
Lori Finch is president of the Guild.
We help families in need We, help them with supplies. We help them with rent if need be. We help them with all kinds of things.
After a total of 26 years with the Guild, Lori says it's clear Judy's desire to help children goes beyond her elaborate baskets.
She generously gives of her time. She brings her life experiences, her compassion, her intellect to everything she does.
And she says Judy is much more than a volunteer.
She is just an inspiration, and I am blessed to call her my friend.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
We heard so much about your work, Judy. And so on behalf of Denver 7 and American Financing, I want to present you with this Denver 7 Everyday Hero Award for your
What a shock.
years. Oh,
what a surprise. Thank you. Gosh.
I'm just touched to be able to meet you and see this fabulous work, and I know that you've just touched so many people.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate that. Love you all. Thank you.
So well earned. Well, speaking of heroes, it's a hero's welcome for the DU men's hockey team. Still ahead. We're talking to the team about what it took to win that 9th title. Plus, start thinking about your summer hiking trips. You can make reservations for a popular spot starting today.